would be crazy. Even though you're not, just to hear it. Even though you're not, just to hear it. I know you're fucking lucky.
To hear what?
And she knows it's not true.
To hear what? Say it.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91. We're here talking to you guys about Love is Blind. I want to be very honest with you. KB, this argument wasn't necessary. Actually, let me rephrase that. The argument is allowed. The timing and the season is all the way off. I can totally understand when you get into your feelings and you feel something because maybe there's been an earlier argument or earlier conversation. Sometimes you're being perceptive. And actually, she wasn't wrong. But the reality of the situation was the timing was all off. This is what happens also when we're drinking, having alcohol. These scenarios can go left so quickly because people are perceiving things in a unique way. So let's talk a little bit about this scene in episode 9 with KB and Edmund. And, you know, seeing this argument now being that KB's the one that's kind of instigated this argument, because actually, genuinely, I really felt like he wasn't trying to at her at all. I think he genuinely felt like he just like, it's nice to hear that. It's just nice to hear that somebody said that, because look, no one else is saying that about their couple. It's only Edmund that was saying that about them. It's not like every couple was saying it. It was literally just them. So again, I can understand where both parties are coming from. Edmund's feeling like, you know, those are just nice people. And he tried to tell her, listen, this isn't the right time to have a conversation. She wasn't having it. She kept on pushing, and then she got her answer. And that's actually why the argument took place. So you have to be aware. I think this is an art of war. It always says, don't fight the last war. Sometimes you just don't need to get into a war. Sometimes it's not necessary. And especially when the conversation isn't leading to understanding, but is leading to who's right and who's wrong. Yeah, you're probably not going to be the best. It's not going to be the best conversation for any party in that space. But let's break down essentially what happened and why this argument took place, and why you yourself will have these kind of arguments in your own relationships as well. Before we get there, make sure you do me a massive favor. You're liking, you're sharing, you are subscribing to the channel. And don't forget, hype the video up. You get me? Hype me up. Hype me up. Hype me up. Okay? All right? Because we need to get, people need to see what great content we got out here. Okay? All right. Let's get into this and let's break this all the way down. Okay? Let's just go to this point and see what's going on.
Oh, he perfect.
You said that would be.
Even though it's not the case.
No.
Let's pause it right here. Even Nick has understood what's happening right now. The way she's looking at him, her angle of her head looking at him, Nick can tell that's not what he meant. Because he's like, no. He's instantly like, no, that's not what it was. Because he could tell straight away, even before KB really goes in, that this is going to become a moment that doesn't need to happen. But KB wasn't her feelings. And actually, you're not wrong for being in your feelings. I want to validate each and every individual person here. You're never wrong for feeling how you feel. But you are going to be wrong for the way you're going to communicate it. You are going to cause more issues for your relationship with the way that you're going to communicate it. You're allowed to feel how you feel. And actually, you can share that. It's what we call co-regulation, right? You co-regulate in terms of you share your feelings with the person. And as they listen and validate you, you feel a sense of more peace and more calm, and you feel more regulated because you've shared this burden on your chest. In fact, it comes with Bible as well, Galatians 6, where it talks about share your burdens with one another, right? So this is it's very much needed in relationships that are healthy and that are growing. So what happens here is that KB's feeling some type of way, and so now she's going to go after Edmund. And some of us do this a lot of times when we feel slighted in that moment. Why is she feeling slighted? Well, because maybe she feels like she's done so much for him. You know, she's taken on his mother, who's a little bit crazy, and then taken on Edmund, who's a little bit crazy. She might feel like, you know, and she's, you know, she ignored the fact that he talked about the sex situation and the way he took it as well. I'm doing a lot of letting things go, and you couldn't not just compare me now in this moment. That's how it probably felt like from her perspective. And again, nothing wrong with that. It's just a way that we communicate that to our partner. Do we want to repair it, or do we want to destroy it? When we want to repair something, or we want to allow the person to also understand how we feel, we have to be very careful about the way that we actually begin to talk about the issue to that particular person. So again, I don't think her feelings were actually wrong, and she wasn't wrong because actually he admitted that there was some feelings in there. But this comment was very innocent.
He said Nick's perfect, and I'm like, nah, I got my things.
But she's still like not even saying that ain't the case. Like,
Are you comparing your relationship?
no, I'm not. I'm just saying that's my.
Now she asked him a question: was he comparing his relationship? And he wasn't. He was just kind of just making a statement that it's nice to hear your partner say you're perfect, regardless of the fact that you're not perfect. And I think everybody desires that. So what was he really saying to KB in this moment? What he was saying in this moment was that he loved the fact that that Nick had found acceptance from his partner. That's essentially what it means when someone says you're perfect in that sense. We all know we're not perfect, but when someone says you're perfect for me, it means you found acceptance in their eyes. And as human beings, we all want that feeling. We all want the emotional safety of a relationship where you can feel like no matter what you do, they like you. Okay? Everybody's looking for that person that likes them, not just what they do, but who they are. And so quintessentially, that's the kind of message he was actually really talking about. But here, KB's obviously frustrated and annoyed, and she feels some level of pain. And so she goes after Edmund and then drives a narrative. And in that space, it's like, are you comparing our relationship? Maybe he's done that in the past. Maybe he's done that once or twice before. Maybe he, because of the argument about sex, right? Remember he said about how all the other guys are having sex and he's not having it. Maybe that's also a reason why she felt like he was comparing, because there's prior form. And this is why I say relationships can really go left really, really quickly, because sometimes we do look at most times we look at the pattern of behavior. We look at what's happening, especially if we haven't really worked it out. That conversation with the whole, sex talk, have you actually worked it out properly, or have we just let things go but not actually fully address things? And sometimes that can linger over from the last time into this new moment because we haven't let things go, or we haven't got past certain things. And so actually the next argument we're to have is actually a continuation of the past problems that we have, which is why you really want to be able to work out some of those issues as much as possible before you go on. That doesn't mean you have to work it out right there and then, but it does mean try and work it out in that particular season and in that particular moment as well. So the argument is really about emotional impulse control, because KB didn't need to have this conversation right here. Now, at this point, she could have left it here and been all right and said, actually, do you know what? I'm going to leave it here. Let's talk about this later on. That would have been what would have been helpful in stopping off from staving off the negative feelings that we're going to have later on. Now, Edmund's got to take some accountability because later on he did not handle the conversation well. I'll talk about it in the part 2 breakdown. But here we do see the fact that KB is interpreting her.
Yeah, right.
It would be crazy.
It would be crazy. Admire, don't compare.
I'm not comparing.
You literally just said.
Now, at this moment, she is going on, not going off one, but she is now telling him what she wants from him, right? Don't admire. Don't compare, admire. And I get her sentiments. You don't want to ever compare yourself to other couples. And like I said, probably the previous argument is still reeling in her mind. But now it's a tone, it's the energy, it's telling the person almost off in this moment, like she is his mum. And that's going to be a little bit frustrating. Any man or any woman who feels like their dad or that feels like their partner's treating them like a mum or dad, it's never helpful. I've been in that position before. I've been told once or twice, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6, that sometimes I can scold, or I can talk in a way that can be condescending, or I can talk in a way that seems like I am talking like I am making them my child or their client in a sense, right? And that oftentimes can be a case of when you're hurt, sometimes the way that you deliver information is you can deliver it from a moral superiority perspective rather than looking at it from a let's have an understanding. And oftentimes that comes because we don't often communicate how we have hurts and pains, right? For instance, did we see we did hear her mention about the pain she felt when it came to the SEX situation the next day in episode 8. But was she able to really get off her chest how she really felt about him and what he did, right? And sometimes when that lingers, we then play this role, especially if we think we are, quote unquote, the one that's meant to be most mature or most wise, or the person who has the knowledge in a relationship. We can come off like we are morally or sometimes intellectually or sometimes even relationally more above the party. And that's what it sounded like just here. But it really, again, it's a guard because you don't know how to really share your feelings in a vulnerable state. You don't know how to be all the way open and vulnerable. And you feel like if you do become more vulnerable than you actually have been already, this person will take advantage of you. So she probably thinks to herself, I've given you chances, you've done things, and now you're doing this. Okay, no, I've got to kind of set you straight a little bit, okay?
To hear that would be perfect, would be great. You're comparing, you're making it seem like I'm not doing enough.
No,
If you said it, you meant it. It wasn't a joke.
I don't hear no positive.
Now, if you heard what she just said, I'll repeat what she said. She said, you made it seem like I wasn't doing enough. What part of what he did made it seem like she wasn't doing enough? And when I do part 2, I will break that down because I think that's really necessary to dig deeper into. Like not feeling like you're not doing enough. Nobody said that. That's a personal feeling. Okay? And that's what she was actually hearing. And so a lot of arguments are about what we think we're hearing from the other party. What she should have said was, hey, I feel like I'm not enough when I heard that statement. That may not have been your intention, just simply what I've heard. You know what I mean? And then what you do is you take away the fact that they did it on purpose. You take away the intention, and you can talk about the impact. But the intention, if we start saying, you made me feel like I wasn't doing enough, almost as if their intention was to hurt you. And that wasn't the case here, right? So I'll play it again just quickly, just so you can hear it one more time.
I'm not
You
comparing.
literally just said to hear that would be perfect, would be great. You're comparing, you're making it seem like I'm not doing enough.
No,
If you said it, you meant.
You're making it seem like I'm not doing enough, but that was never the comment he was making. He was simply talking about it's just nice to hear, because again, he was looking for acceptance. So this became an argument because they were drunk. It became an argument because emotions were high and uncontrolled. It became an argument because KB's heard about a past event. Like I said, there is something deeper, and usually we are fighting people and argue with them from a deeper space. And I'll do that in part 2. But Edmund was standing strong. He didn't want to have this conversation right now. He was trying not to have this conversation here.
It wasn't a joke.
I don't hear no positive stuff from you.
You say you don't hear enough positive? And this is the place to bring that shit up at?
I can not.
Give me another problem now.
So now, because she's pushed it, now he's gone and said something, and now you got to deal with the next comment that you've made, right? And this is also why Edmund has to be accountable, because every word that you say that comes out your mouth, you will be held accountable for it. It's just that simple. And so now him saying, oh, when you say anything positive, the argument's going to shift again. And a lot of times this is what happens when it comes to arguments. Arguments shift because we're not dealing with the first argument. So what ends up happening is more situations happen, people get hurt, people get frustrated, and then more issues happen. And it's like, then you're just piling on the issues on that first issue. But he has to be accountable because he said those words. So now we're going to derail this the previous argument. It's going to become another fresh argument because now she's got to attack the new statement that you just made, right? So again, this is how arguments happen very quickly.
If this is a place for you to tell me that kind of shit, we live together. You need to tell me that.
I don't want to do this.
Now let's pause right here. She said this is not a place to tell me that kind of stuff, but he wasn't telling you that stuff. That's the whole point. He wasn't telling you that at that point in time. You pushed for it and now you've got it. And so this is where she needs to be accountable. You pushed for it, now you've got it. He doesn't want to have the conversation right now, right? And so now both of you are going to be in an argument because if he doesn't, one of you got to step back away from the batting field, right? And if you don't, we're going to be starting pitching sixes. In cricket, we say sixes. We're going to start pitching home runs, right? First base shots. We're going to start doing that because now we're having an argument in a place that we shouldn't have it. There is a time and there is a season. Let me tell you a little story, a quick one. I remember I had an argument with somebody. It was in a club. They know who they are, so they already know. But it was a stupid, I won't say stupid argument. It meant a lot to me, that argument. I can't lie to you because how I felt is how I felt. Here's the problem with that though, time and season. The argument was in a public space, in a public setting. It was directly in the place where the incident was taking place. So it's like, this wasn't the greatest place to have this argument. It wasn't the greatest place to say how I felt. It wasn't the greatest place to be able to explore some of those real thoughts and feelings. This conversation wasn't going to bring any understanding because really and truly, I just wanted to be right. I just wanted you to feel how I felt. I wanted you to know I was hurt by what you've done. But actually, that is not the mature perspective. That's an immature perspective. A little child does that. When you grow and you become more of a man or more of a woman and you become mature in emotional aspects, you choose your time correctly. And that's something I've had to learn over the period of time because as you are somebody who's more of an avoidant, which I know that KB is as well, when you are a bit more of an avoidant, you store things up and then it blows up. And this is where KB just blew up. She stored a few things, boom, hits him with it. And now we're in a public space and talking about this ain't the right time. No, sis, you are the one that's in the wrong time because you shouldn't have been having this conversation in the first place. You should have just told him, I didn't like that comment, but let's talk about this later on, right? Ali did it to Anton. Now, even her mentioning it was annoying, but the fact that she told him, listen, we need to talk later on, she didn't address it here. It's not the right time to address it. That's timing and that's season. And a lot of us need to learn timing and season. I've been told. So I've worked on it. Do you know what I mean? I understand now some timing and some season. You can't just say it no matter how you feel about the situation. Okay?
Here.
You brought it up.
I know, but I don't want to do this here.
You have no answer for me? You brought that here.
Because I can't like it. What have you told me I was?
Whew. Now, Edmund, again, like I said, has to be accountable. And this is what I'll say about men. And it's my final point on this. Men are, I believe they're called to be leaders, okay? The Bible prescribes us to be leaders, that we should rule, not to have dominion, but to rule with love and to be in servitude. Christ showed us what leadership looks like. It is servitude. The problem we have is that as men, we also need to make sure that we are providing not just financially, but also emotionally, meaning we should recognize that our contributions towards emotional stability in any given relationship is on us as well. Yes, I know many of you may feel that women are unstable. I know many of you may think that women are emotional creatures, regardless how you feel about whatever you think about. The reality is you're called to be a leader. And in that space, you must implore emotional stability as well as emotional intelligence. So what does that mean here for Edmund? Well, actually, for Edmund, where he missed a trick is that he should have stuck to his guns. When he knew in his mind, he didn't want to have this conversation right here. So when he said, I don't want to have this conversation right now, he should have told her again, I don't have this conversation right now. Let's park it here. I promise you, we'll revisit this later on. I don't want to talk about this right now. Right? Shut it down. Should have been upset for a little while. Should have moped around for a little while. But at least the conversation not in public. Right? And then you can address it later on. And so what that would have done, again, is what we just called emotional protection. That's what men are called to do, protect. So emotionally, it would have protected her because it would have stopped her from elevating her emotional arousal, which she's in a state of right now. So she's heightened, and actually would have just brought her down a little bit, right? Should have gone to her girls, complained a little bit about how annoying you are, and and then you would have come home and then been able to have a conversation. You'd have been much calmer. Should have been much calmer. You might even have to even tell her, listen, let's talk about this in the morning. Because I'm drunk, you drunk, this ain't gonna happen the right way, right? This is what we call emotional protection, right? Sometimes having forthrightness and understanding and seeing into the future that this is not conducive for us. This conversation is gonna go left. This conversation is gonna bring about more frustration than it is gonna bring results. And the results that we are always looking for is understanding. Okay, all right. So he saw it, but he couldn't act on it. That's going to be something he needs to work on in his armor of leadership. Every man has things they need to work on in the leadership aspect. So, I've been doing my work for the last year and a half, and I've been really trying to work on that aspect because it's not easy. Because again, sometimes you get triggered, you get pissed off, you get annoyed. Why can't you just say what they're saying? No, because you need to understand you're still leading even in those conversations. That doesn't mean you can't tell the truth about how you feel. It's about timing and season and knowing that certain conversations you're not in the best place to have them, and you're not in the best temperament to have them. Therefore, we need to park it and follow it through later on. Okay? Right? So that's something that as a man, we're looking to do to make sure our partners feel safe and cared for. Okay? So my concluding statements in this is that, this can be solved. All right. The solving here for part one is choose your battle time well. It is not always the time to battle and to go to war. Sometimes we need to relax and tell ourselves this isn't the space and the time to have this argument, as she said herself, but then didn't follow through and then proceeded to have the conversation go further on. I know she was asking him what he was meant by it, but she could have dropped it and addressed it later on. She didn't want to because she got her fangs into him, right, at that point in time, and she felt hurt. So in that space, now she goes after him. That's not going to be helpful long run, okay? She needs to work on that impulse control to have that conversation there and there as well. But again, I hope you guys have learned something today as well. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Whose fault was it? Was it KB? Was it Edmund? How did you see? I mean, how do you feel about arguments? And when you have to address hard conversations with your partner, has there been times where you've addressed arguments in the wrong time of season? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your stories in the chat as well, in the comment section. In the meantime, listen, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and you click on that wonderful bell button for notifications of the uploads and when I go live as well. And don't forget, you can book yourself in for some coaching. If this is something that you've been going through where you feel like you and your partner can't seem to get on the same wavelength, can't seem to get on the same page, then this is going to be a great time. Reach out to me, get yourself booked in for a free discovery call. Doesn't cost a thing for the discovery call. It does cost something for the coaching though. Okay, we're here to help you make sure you guys actually are able to achieve your particular goals as well. Okay, make sure you hype the video as well, and we'll see you again very, very soon, I guess, for part 2 of this wonderful, wonderful video. Appreciate you guys. Set up. Little black book. You know what time it is.